Hey everyone, Daniel here. I know it's been a while since my last video. Sorry about that. Things been kind of hectic here. You might see I'm a little sleep deprived, as in, like, the bags under my eyes are just so heavy. But you know what? I gotta do a video, so let's talk about DC Rebirth. Alright, now since I didn't get a video out Tuesday talking about last week's books, I'm going to talk about both last week's books and this week's Titans Rebirth special. So, I don't know what we'll do next week, but we'll figure out something, you know? I haven't done a Valiant vlog in a while, so maybe we'll do that. So let's talk Aquaman Rebirth. This book is not bad. It's pretty much just a case study of Aquaman's character, typical stuff. People think he's lame, but he's actually not. He's a king. Some people hate him, some people love him, some people fear him, some people, that kind of thing. It's honestly the kind of thing that it's a good, solid Aquaman story, but it's basically just going over things that were kind of already covered if you had read the previous run by, like, Jeff Johns. Jeff Johns covered a lot of these same things, and really it's nothing groundbreaking. It's basically just another Aquaman story. Mara's there, they talk about their relationship. Black Manta says he's going to get revenge for his father. It's all pretty typical Aquaman stuff. It's not a bad book at all. It's just, if you're an Aquaman fan, you already know this stuff, so this is kind of a waste of money, honestly, if you're an Aquaman fan. If it's one of those things, if you haven't read Aquaman before, I think that definitely this is a solid starting point. You get to know who Aquaman is. Mara's in there. I think Garth was in here. I don't know, maybe he wasn't. I think he was. Dan Abnett is a really good writer, so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens when he actually takes over the book. But this is kind of just a basic introduction to the character. Nothing groundbreaking, but nothing disappointing. I will say this, though, the art, while it looks cool on pages like this, when you get to just, like, a later scene, like when when Aquaman and Mera are talking, the faces, it looks so weird. Like, the faces in particular, just something about it just looks off. Like they're more clay people rather than human beings, and that was kind of a weird hurdle to get over. But so yeah, it's one of those things where not great, but not terrible. So if you're not an Aquaman fan, I recommend it to sort of get a feel for the character. If you are an Aquaman fan, don't bother. Next up, The Flash. This is a hard book to nail down, mainly because it both has to set up its own story, but it also has to follow up on the Rebirth special. So it kind of sets up both, and I feel like it doesn't quite do enough for each. It's not a bad story, it's just that it quite clearly is kind of split into these two parts. Part of it is the setup of Godspeed and the Speed Force Storm and all that. The other part really is dealing with Wally and his return and all that, which then leads to Titans Rebirth. But it's one of those things where you really need to have read the DC Rebirth special before you read this book. But if you have read that, then this is a pretty solid next step. It does feature them following up on the comedian pen with Batman, and Barry and talking with Bruce about the fact that he's remembering. And we get these little hints towards Godspeed, but we don't really get anything solidly confirmed. And honestly, I was just left wanting more. But that's the thing. This is kind of just a bridge from the Rebirth special to the Flash's main series, and also kind of a lead into Titans. So the art is also very it looks just a little bit off to me. It's one of those things where it's not necessarily bad, but something about the lines and the inking just does not really appeal to me. It looks just a little bit off. Really, I can only recommend the story if you're interested in following the DC Rebirth overall story involving the Watchmen characters, or are a huge fan of The Flash like I am. If not, I'd say just wait for Flash #1. So first off, we had a book that was perfect for new fans, a book that was not great for new fans, and unfortunately that pattern is going to continue with Wonder Woman Rebirth. Honestly, this was my favorite of Week 2's books, but it was also the hardest for new readers to get into. One of the things that, for me, makes this great is the fact that, like the DC Universe Rebirth special, it spits in the face of the New 52 run. And I love that, because I hate the New 52 run and all the stupid stuff that happened in it. But at the same time, it's really designed for people who didn't like that run to get back into it, which is a little harder for new fans to get into it. The book is written by Greg Rucka, and he's a great writer. A fantastic Wonder Woman scribe. He's in my top 3, but it's just a book that is really hard to have access to if you're not a Wonder Woman fan and know all about the multitude of retcons and reboots that she's had over the years. Now, if you are a Wonder Woman fan, I cannot recommend this book enough. Rucka is crafting a meta story about the nature of Diana's reboots and all that, and really is trying to tie it all together into one thing where all these legends have been told about her, but she doesn't know what's real anymore. And someone out there has lied to her, and so she's finally going to be discovering the truth. All I can ask is that as this story is done, it's really the truth, and we keep to it for years to come. That's really all I want. But it's honestly a really good story, and I recommend it if you're a fan of Wonder Woman, but if you're a new reader, it might be better to just wait for Wonder Woman #1. And unfortunately, that's the kind of crux with all of this week's books, was it might be better to just wait for the #1. If you're not a Wonder Woman fan, you should wait for the #1. If you are not a Flash fan, you should wait for the #1. But if you are an Aquaman fan, you should wait for the #1. So yeah, kind of a mixed bag of books so far. But none of them are really bad stories, they're just not great stories. Now, let's jump ahead a week and talk about Titans Rebirth. This was my most anticipated new title of the Rebirth stuff because I am a huge Teen Titans fan. They're the superhero team that got me into comics with the Jeff Johns run, and as such, it was one of the things that infuriated me about the New 52 was the fact that the Titans were just wiped from existence. And of course, this book follows up on the heels of Titans Hunt, which, I will be honest, I did not read, because, well, I was still a little cynical with the New 52 and the Titans, and I wasn't sure that it would really fix things to the way I wanted them. But from what I can gather in this book, it did. Dan Abnett, like I said with Aquaman, is a great writer, and he nails the Titans characterization. For everyone from Dick Grayson and Wally West, their relationship, and really that's what this book is all about, is Wally and his relationship with the other Titans. His relationship with Speedy, or with Roy Harper, with Dick Grayson, with Donna Troy, with Garth, and the ways he relates. Really, Wally is the heart of the original Titans, and I think that's really great, and this book really is great at showing that. My only complaint about this book, really, is the fact that it ends when it does. I wanted it to just keep going. I really loved it, and I was like, no, I want more. I need more. I need more of a story than this. And that's actually a good thing, in my opinion, because it means I'm so excited and I'm so ready to see the new Titans book, and I really want to know what happens next. How does Wally adjust to being back into the DC universe and having to reestablish all these connections? It's a really good book. But like the others, it's kind of a thing that's supposed to bridge. I'd say if you read the DC Universe Rebirth special, you should probably check this book out. And definitely if you're a Titans fan or a Flash fan, this is a really good book for you to read. I highly recommend it. And honestly, I don't think it's bad if you aren't a Titans fan. If you're not, well, then this book honestly might intrigue you to check out the Teen Titans and check out the Titans Hunt storyline. I mean, that's the thing. I'm now just waiting for the trade because I really want to read Titans Hunt to see how Abnett handles these characters without Wally and with like Mal Duncan and Bumblebee and Hawk and Dove. So, and probably my favorite scene is when Kid Flash and Robin are stealing the Batmobile to go for a joyride. I mean, that is the epitome of Dick Grayson and Wally West. If you're a fan of Young Justice, they really nailed down, like, when I was reading this scene, it really felt like I heard the voices of the characters from that show. It's definitely a thing I recommend to Young Justice fans. It's a really good book. So, yeah, I highly recommend checking out Titans Rebirth. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Leave me a comment below telling me what you thought of the DC Rebirth specials, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Flash, Titans, and some of the others. I know I didn't talk about Action Comics or Batman #1 or any of the other books that have come out, and I may talk about them at a later date, but for right now, we're just gonna skip them and just worry about the Rebirth specials. I'll see you next week. Don't know what we're gonna do next week, but it will be awesome, whatever it is, because, hey, it's my channel, and my channel's always awesome. See you around.